game's got a lot more problems than that, to be sure. So, I actually don't mind it so much, but apparently it's like completely hated in the gaming community. Also, I'm saying this for the benefit of anybody watching and noticing that a section of the gameplay is missing. Most specifically, the shooting gallery that's in the room right next to me. Yes, I did it. Yes, I recorded the footage for it and got the power node and everything. But for purposes of keeping the walkthrough running or playthrough or whatever at a decent clip, I'm not putting that in there.
How considerate of you.
Yeah.
Shooting gallery?
Yeah, you see what he was walking up to at the end of the previous video?
The shooting gallery actually isn't that bad.
Is it another turret section?
No, it's not a turret section. And this poor bat's...
Hey man, can you do something about my leg? Or I'll just explode. Never mind.
Yeah, some of the death scenes are actually unintentionally hilarious. Because, I'm pretty sure if I lost my leg, I think the last thing I would be doing with it is cradling it.
I think that moment where his limbs kind of exploded was the moment he became ragdollized. It went from a pre-baked animation to whoa.
Yeah, speaking of ragdoll, insta-death lasers, don't touch it. Oh yeah, this is another moment where I realize, oh shit, my inventory's full and I need that. Yeah, the way you unlock items in the store are schematics. And, yeah, without said schematics, you can't buy stuff. So I sacrificed the medium med kit to actually put that in my inventory.
Can't you just pick it back up again?
Probably, but that means I'd have to run through this section again. And
I see. This until you get to the store, the schematic is in your inventory.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
Can you just use your stasis thing on it?
Yeah, that's the plan, but I'm real skittish at this point because anything that involves insta death, I make damn sure I don't get killed by it, because I can't tell you how many times I fucked this up on the Xbox version. So, yeah.
I would run back and save.
Well, that's the thing. I forgot to save, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna make sure to be very careful here." So I'm trying to get the timing down, and I think about right here's the point where I decide screw it and just stay, or I could just there we go. And then after all that planning, I almost walked into it anyway.
Keep moving.
I'm aware.
There you go.
And of course they put, boxes next to the next to the stupid laser. So here I am inchworming next to it.
Ooh, shiny! Oh wait, God, no.
That's not far from it. And what's even worse is that there's actually some boxes that glitch out. And if you ever see me stare at a box and use telekinesis to pick up the item, it's because the box glitched out. So I
didn't give it to you automatically.
There's actually a spot in Chapter 10 where that happens to me, and I'm just standing there in front of it for 40 seconds, just... God, open... Ah! Oh, more exploders. Yeah, if you can't tell from the video footage, I am completely inept when it comes to those things. Well, the exploders, not the twitchers. I'm alright with those.
I like how the twitcher, dodged.
Yeah, the twitchers are very good at dodging, actually. What the hell was that? I heard something in the background like dead speak or something.
No, I couldn't speak because Necromorph's on screen.
Oh.
That was you.
That was me squeaking out.
Because I was like, that's definitely not in the game audio.
That was me.
Or is it?
That was me.
I thought it was like one of the things. I was like, did I miss something in the recording?
Quickly use one of the stasis packs and then...
I think eventually I do that. But the problem is I find like 2 on the ground, I'm like, shit. And then
You're not at full stasis, so clearly you should use a stasis pack.
I know I'm not at full stasis. I don't know if you realize this, but this was recorded in the past, and...
No, do it now.
Do it.
Go back in time. And tell
Go
your
back
fucking
in
self
time.
to frickin'...
Strangle my babies. Wait, sorry, wrong time travel concept.
Always finding myself yelling at the screen on LPs or whatever, be like, "No, you're supposed to do this."
You do that all the time during mine. Particularly anytime I use the Ripper, you're usually yelling at the screen.
Yes. Well, unless you're fighting against, a human-sized opponent, then I'm like, okay, that's fine. But when you're dealing with the things that split off into little tiny things, I'm like, no, use the Ripper, because it's a lot faster to track things with it. I mean, not Ripper, Plasma Cutter.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Although you're using the Plasma Cutter to beat that one boss in the turnstile place or whatever was great.
Yeah, there's a boss battle with something called the Leviathan in chapter 6, and I think I might have said chapter 5 and then chapter 6. It's in chapter 6, but it's called the Leviathan because it's a 10 kiloton organic growth inside of food storage. So it's basically what would happen if whatever's in your crisper drawer gets completely horribly mutated out of control. And the problem is when you fight this thing, it's in zero gravity. So you're basically stuck in a giant tumble dryer with this thing flinging its tentacles at you and exploding pustules.
That is all kinds of pleasant.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is the boss is actually quite easy. And if you've got an upgraded pulse rifle, the boss battles are not an issue really. It's one of the few times the pulse rifle's actually a good idea. It's a good thing to have
because it stands still.
It stands still, and it's auto fire. And I'm about to enter what's known as a circus room, where everything just gets all kinds of batshit crazy, and that means Newbie Spud's gonna be paralyzed.
Okay, now that I know that, I'm gonna try to just steal myself through it, and provide lots of really interesting commentary while you're in combat.
Yeah, and this is the barracks area, and these poor bastards. Well, I'm pretty sure some of them died in their beds, and that's just awful.
Okay.
On the plus
awesome.
side, yeah, it's
every now and then there's contamination warning, and then it locks down the whole thing, which I guess would make sense, but then at the same time, that's really bad. When the necromorphs.
It's like that scene in The Rock where they drop one of those green things and it pollutes the air, and that one guy gets locked in there, kind of like that. Shot the thing's face off.
Makes me wonder if any of these really convenient protocols kicked in while the ship was being initially attacked, and not when it's far too late for any of these security measures to really even matter anymore.
Well, actually, yeah, there were several lockdowns both on the Ishimura and this particular ship.
So I wonder why there are babies on a military vessel.
Hold on, yeah.
Well, keep in mind this thing crashed into the Ishimura, so.
Oh right, so the babies could have just invaded.
Oh yeah, and I think Newbie Spud missed it, but one of the first enemies that I killed was something called a pregnant.
I didn't want to ask to slow you down, but yeah. That was new to me.
Yeah, it's random bit of trivia, the Twitcher is the fastest enemy in the game, even when you knock its legs off.
Right, they crawl around on the ground.
Yeah, they crawl on the ground at supersonic speeds, which is really funny.
Crawling around at the speed of sound.
Actually, now that I think about it, apparently the stasis thing is a common thing to rigs. Because
it's incredibly common.
So why couldn't they use that to slow down the thing enough to shoot its legs and arms off or whatever with a barrage of pulse rifle.
I'm thinking what happened on the Valor is that this thing just snuck around in the vents and just started offing people. Because I don't know if you've ever seen it's probably in the same style of like Oblivion or Skyrim,
But
it was just
picked it up.
I'm trying to give some kind of explanation. You keep using logic against me. But yeah, to explain the pregnant thing,
There's a maternity ward on the Ishimura.
actually, the funny thing is, the pregnant has nothing to do with whether or not the person in question is pregnant or not.
Oh.
But the reason it's called a pregnant because, well, it does have a big bloated stomach and it is about to give birth, but it doesn't usually give birth to a baby unless it's much later on in the game.
Yeah,
Lovely.
it gives birth to these little tiny,
These tiny little things.
they kind of look like
swarm.
Pikmin in a way.
Actually, I was gonna say they look like really tiny infectors.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
And their threat range varies depending on how many there are and how close they are to you, and how many close encounter weapons you have. Because if you have something like the Force Gun, which is basically a giant kinetic pulse 160 degrees in front of you, you can just wipe out all of them in one shot. Or if you have the Ripper, you can just hold the blade in front of you. Yeah, by the way, this is a text log commenting on the fact that the Ishimura is in fact performing an illegal mining operation. So yeah,
Well,
there's
it looks
that.
like they're,
So
not
they
really,
know
they're less
about
concerned
the
about
markers
that,
already?
more about the marker.
So they already know about the markers.
Oh yeah, EarthGov and the Unitologists know about the markers, but they're both trying to get a hold of them for completely different reasons.
All of them good, I imagine.
Well, actually, EarthGov's original idea for the markers is actually pretty good because when they initially found them, they thought that they were founts of energy and that their readings were off the charts and everything, but they found out that they weren't generating energy. They were actually absorbing energy. That's what they do. But they thought what they could do was reverse engineer it and use it to make a perpetual energy machine, which was a big deal at that particular point, considering that Earth had completely run out of its natural resources, and humanity started killing each other over, well, what was left. So that's how you get things like the Ishimura. It's basically a ship sent out to completely strip mine a planet from space and take out its metal resources, non-metal elements, fossil fuels, that kind of thing, just for various purposes, and just do it en masse. Fun little fact: the very first part of the planet crack is called popping the cork, because they completely fuck up the crust of the planet and send all the debris flying into space.
Right, yeah.
15-second mark, by the way.
There's just not much about this series that isn't horrifying.
Yeah, true enough, and it doesn't help that all the lighting reminds me of a freaking dentist's office. But that's a phobia for another day, I suppose.